Like, fuck, man, all the people you've let down, like in your life, dude, because of all of this shit, man. What are you doing? You know, like what are you doing, man? You can't keep living like this.
Well, here we go, guys. Season 4. Welcome back to After Hours with Jimmy Thistle. I know I've only been away for a couple of weeks, but you know what? I don't want to leave you guys hanging on for more and more and more. You know, I don't want to drag it out, and obviously people are struggling out there, so I want to get as many episodes out as possible. While you know, this is still an issue, which it's going to be for a long, long time. I want to keep getting the guests on and letting you guys hear their story. So I'm starting season 4 with the amazing Brad McLeod. I was on Brad's podcast about maybe a month ago, maybe a bit longer than that. And you know, Brad is someone who carries real weight in this world of sobriety and recovery. He's been sober a long time, and he's a pioneer. You know, I've had a few pioneers on here. We've got a few more to come in this season, and he is a pioneer from, you know, whether it be just the Instagram, the podcasting. He's now got an app called Sober Motivation. I'm a member of the app, so guys, you know, I'll put a link in the description. It's just an amazing little app. Even if you're looking for an app to give you a day count, that's your app. You know, forget about all these, you know, I am sober apps and all that. Get on Brad's Sober Motivation app, and that'll keep you tallied up. But there's so many other things on there. It gives you podcast episodes. It gives you, you can put in daily affirmations. You can connect with people. You can go to meetings if you're in the US. And Brad does set up little events from time to time as well. I say little, they're probably huge. I'd love to go to one, but obviously, you know, he's over there in Canada and the US. So that's where that's at. But yeah, as I say, just a no-brainer to get Brad on and to start things rolling on season 4. Brad's got an amazing story. You know, he's you know, ADHD diagnosis from a young age, on Ritalin, Adderall from an early age. His mum was 16 when she had twins, him and his brother. And, you know, life was tough for Brad. You know, he didn't feel like he really fitted in, didn't really feel like he belonged, was in and out of trouble. But as he calls it, you know, the kind of squirrely kid syndrome, you know, which is before they really knew about ADHD, or they didn't know that much about ADHD. So he was just bored in class, you know, not doing things academically, not really paving his way for his future, because as he says in the episode, you know, he wasn't even thinking past like Friday night. You know, he just didn't know how to kind of compute that. Started getting in trouble with the law. And then, you know, like the title of this episode, Brad wasn't really a drinker until later. And then he was just playing poker around his apartment with some guys, and some guy brought out a pill, and Brad was like, "What is that?" And he said, this'll make you feel good. This'll change your life. And within 30 seconds, Brad's life had changed. It just went rapidly downhill after that, you know, in trouble with the law, the drugs, more booze. Then the drugs, the opioids turned into heroin, you know, the prescriptions turned into heroin. And yeah, just a real kind of roller coaster, but in such a short period of time. You know, Brad's still a young man, and he's been sober a number of years, but, you know, he got sober and clean in his early 20s. So that's why he's really kind of made this life for himself that he's now living. So, yeah, guys, it's an amazing episode. So buckle up, listen for the similarities and not the differences. See you at the end. Cheers. Brad, how are you, mate?
Doing good, Jimmy. Good to see you again, man. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. It's good to see you again, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is, as I told you off air, this is going to be the opener for season 4. So, it's just amazing to have you back in the room. Like, obviously, I was on your podcast, now you're on mine. So, to begin with, I mean, for people who haven't come across you, who was Brad before, social media, the podcast, Motivation app? Who were you before all that, man? Tell the listeners.
Yeah. How far back do you want me to go? From the beginning, or?
Let's go from the beginning, man. Because you know what? Like, you and I know that childhood has a lot to do with kind of molding who we are as people, good or ill. So yeah, let's go back and start there, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the most important highlights sort of the story I share, my story anyway. My mom had twins at 16. So my brother and I, 16, Catholic school, Catholic household. I don't know all of the details, but I can imagine. I can read between the lines pretty good. That caused some friction, still in high school, all of that stuff. So my grandparents stepped in, and obviously she was still living with her parents, my grandparents, and they stepped in and helped out. I think, man, looking back, I mean, you don't realize any of this at the time, but I think looking back, growing up with my grandparents were the type where, they don't really say no, they kind of spoil you. They have a lot more, maybe free time to spend time with you, a lot more attention. And I grew up with that right out of the gate, where my grandparents were, as we all lived together, and things were really good. And then when I was about 5 or 6, my mom went back to school. She became a nurse, and she was looking for jobs. I was born in Canada. Mm-hmm. And she was looking for jobs, and we landed in Waco, Texas, man, US. Oh. And, as a nurse, right? So this was when we, as a unit, the 3 of us, my dad wasn't really in the picture. I mean, they were all young, and that's a different part of the story, I guess. But yeah, we moved down there, and it was just the 3 of us, man. And things really shifted. I think she really did the best she could. She was a young mom of twins. Like, I have 3 kids now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine. And I'm much older than I was when I had my first. And
plus, nursing is a tough job. You're working all the hours, and she's just starting out in that, and she's got 2 young sons, and like moving country as well, from Canada to Texas. What was that like? That must have been a huge culture shock, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, they still have McDonald's both places, but yeah, it was different. It was definitely different. Starting school, kind of starting over. Like, I might have been in like grade 2 or 1 or 2. So people had kind of already established, I guess, their beginnings. So it's trying to fit in and kind of being this, person from Canada. I mean, at the time, dude, they literally thought people lived in igloos in Canada, at least where I was in Texas, man. So we weren't really overly familiar. But I mean, the cultures are a lot, the same, right? You're kind of in North America. But it was different trying to acclimate to things and, figure stuff out. And my mom, she was nursing. And, I think most people, if not all, who start out in nursing, you kind of do the overnight shift. To begin with, right? So, we would have babysitters and stuff here and there, but really started to feel a lot of anxiety early on, kind of missing maybe the stability or the consistency or the love or the attention that I used to have. And then, it's not that my mom wasn't a great mom. She was, but, 1 person, 2 kids, like, kind of, do the math, right? You spread pretty thin trying to start a career and a new life. So that definitely took a toll on me looking back.
And how was your relationship with your twin? Because, I mean, I've got an older sibling, and he would kind of, tease me, bully me a little bit when I was growing up. But obviously twins, they say, you're kind of a close unit. So I guess when you're maybe feeling this anxiety, where you kind of coming closer together as brothers and kind of, fending off for each other and using that kind of, so you're not as isolated if you were on your own with a babysitter? How did that work?
I mean, I don't think so. No, it was pretty competitive. We were pretty at odds, growing up, man. I mean,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think it's not a myth, but I think for some twins, they're kind of like, you know, almost like one half of each other. But whereas some are just, yeah, you know what, like you're just brothers at the end of the day. And it's like we got our own lives to live. So, yeah. So,
Yeah.
how was kind of teen years were you still in Texas at this point where you're like, I was, well, I mean, when did you have your first drink? Were you a big drinker from an early age, or, you know, the usual teen, 14, 15, or no?
No, I wasn't actually. I mean, the first time I had a drink there's not a big story to it.
Mm-hmm.
I was in high school and I heard a bunch of people talking about drinking, and I really wasn't in the cool crowd. And I kind of credit that to really not getting the ball rolling on this. Like I wasn't invited out to, you know, party or to hang out or to sort of take risks or go to the, you know, in the woods for cigarettes or stuff. But I had like a sip of vodka from my parents. They had a little stash, and that was it. I was like, that's disgusting. I just drank straight from the bottle. I was like, everybody talks about all this great time. I had a sip of this vodka. But I mean, I did get in a lot of trouble, you know, earlier on in high school. You know, I was diagnosed with ADHD early on too. I always was misbehaving, I guess you could, you know, coin it, in the classroom.
Yeah.
I think now when I look back at it, I was extremely bored. I just really wasn't interested about learning, you know, what they were teaching and sort of the environment. So I always kind of felt like an odd one out. I never did well in school. I never studied for a test. I never read a book. I never did homework. And this is through my entire, you know, all the way up until, you know, grade 12. I never really did anything academic wise. I mean, here or there, I would put forth some effort, but not much. And then I, you know, a big part of wanting to be accepted sort of came into my life. So I started hanging out with other people that, you know, we were doing crimes and stuff. Like we were garage hopping and, you know, taking stuff out of cars. You know, when I look back on that too, it was just to try to fit in with these guys. That really wasn't how I was raised or the values I personally had. My parents were good. I didn't see them drink a whole lot.
Yeah. I was going to say, because like, you know, it sounds like you're kind of, you know, your mum's working hard and, you know, like, it's not that you're doing this because you need the money, and you're not doing it to, you know, kind of feed fund a drug habit at this point or anything. It's more for the buzz and to fit in, I guess. This is acceptance. Whereas some people are out going to parties. You seem to have found a crowd where, yeah, let's go and boost some garages and you know, do a bit of robbing to be accepted. So yeah, I mean, did you know at the time? Listen, this is obviously, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you knew that was wrong, didn't you? Of course you did. It wasn't like,
for sure.
You weren't thinking of consequences, really, were you? You were just thinking, I'm not going to get caught.
Yeah, I mean, that was always the struggle I had, you know, in my teen years, and even as you know, after my teen years for a bit. I always had a really difficult time connecting the dots between, like, I knew things were wrong, I shouldn't be doing them, but the consequences never really prevented me from doing them. And then that could be too, you know, I mean, there were talks growing up of like oppositional defiance disorder as well. You know, maybe some OCD as well. Extremely impulsive. You know, the ADHD element too is I was always searching for dopamine, you know, so things like that, you know, were exciting. We're probably checking those boxes without me really even realizing it. And I had been seeing doctors and therapists and counselors and learning centers ever since I could remember, you know, people trying to, you know, look under the hood a little bit and figure out, you know, what's going on. I was getting suspended from school in grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. And that followed all the way, you know, through to high school. When I was 16, I got arrested for the first time. And, yeah, I mean, that was kind of looking back. Hey, that could have and should have been the opportunity to turn the corner, you know, to, hey, maybe we focus on the academics. And, you know, I was getting, my mom had met and married my stepdad too. We had moved to North Carolina, you know, started over there. They bought their first house. It was all exciting. And, you know, as things kind of went, I just had this, I couldn't feel the love from my parents. Like I couldn't feel the love from them because they were great. And I just looked for it in all the wrong places. I got involved with some girlfriends. I mean, some serious it was just disastrous. This codependency stuff and this swings of depression and anxiety. I was put on all the pharmaceuticals, Prozac and Wellbutrin, and it was like constant trying to just keep this train on the tracks from derailing too far. And first time I got arrested too, that was another thing I think that kept me away from the substance too. Is the first time I got arrested at 16, I was put on probation, and part of the probation was to do pee samples, every week or every couple weeks, right? So, and if you fail the pee sample, it's 16, yeah. Wow. So maybe that.
Well, that would keep you away from it. I know you're thinking, well, you're not thinking the consequences, but I guess the consequences for this they're like your probation officer saying, listen, if your pee sample comes back with you with narcotics or alcohol or whatever, you're going back to jail. Do you know what I mean? So you're probably like, okay, I don't really fancy that because I've been there and I'm not going to do that again. Yeah. Do you think there was because the thing is, Brad, talking to you and seeing you now, obviously you're older, and we mature and things like that. But it just doesn't strike me as the type of person that would be doing all this. Do you think you had a lot of anger when you were younger, or were you just kind of doing it for the buzz, the shits, the giggles, the whatever? I know you're saying you've got, the ADHD and the OCD as well, but it's like, were you thinking, well, I'm only going to do this for a couple of years because I'm a kid and then I'm going to settle down, or were you just not thinking about tomorrow?
No, I mean, I definitely don't. I don't think I had the ability to think about tomorrow or beyond Friday night. When I was younger, I think that was it. Like that was as far as I could see. It's so interesting, man. I mean, half the time I don't even know if I was thinking. Yeah. I was kind of running on autopilot. I think my nervous system was just so scared and just so out of whack. I mean, I was taking Adderall too, and I had Adderall too for, I did all the medications, right? They kind of popped up. It was the error sort of the squirrely boy, the squirrely kids. We got to medicate him. And, I'm not here to say what's right or what's wrong. I think everybody did the best they could at the time with what they knew.
But they didn't know much, did they? And it was like, as you say, that's a great way of putting it, squirrely kid in the class. Like I knew a lot of them were my friends because they were a little bit outward, they were naughty in class. They would do this and do that, but it was because they were bored and they didn't know. And I don't think there was medication in those days or it was even recognized when I was in school. And I know I'm about 10 years older than you. So it's like, they've come on leaps and bounds since then. But when you were there, it was like, let's just medicate the kid, shut him up so that everyone else can get their classwork done, Yeah.
Yeah. And I just didn't really understand much of it. Like much of what was going on, I just didn't really understand, how my brain was different than other people's. And like, I didn't get all of those elements of things that I understand now and like this ultimate search for dopamine. So to cut a long story short, man, at 17, I ended up in a psych ward. This was my second time being committed to a psych ward. It was a big humiliating thing too. I had talked with a friend that like I wanted to end my life, and which is so wild too, because I reflect back on that era of my life, probably 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. There were so many times where I was like, man, I just would rather not even wake up. Yeah. And life is so much different today, but that was a reality for me. So I had already been to the psych ward too on another time, UNC Chapel Hill. And then I went, and then the cops came to my school, to the high school, and arrested me. And this was like a committal, forced committal, right, to the psych ward. And then I actually had this letter. I just read it the other day. My parents kind of gave me this like ultimatum letter. Yeah. I had two options. So I went to this, and I hadn't got into the drugs or anything, but like, let me tell you, the behaviors were all there. I mean, it was just reckless. It was chaotic. It was brutal. And so they gave me this letter, and I had two options. I could go to this voluntary sort of behavioral rehab program, like 90 minutes away from home for a couple of months. And that was like option A. And then option B was a place where they force you to go. Like you don't have a choice. Like you go. And that was like a year. So this guy comes into the psych ward and he's like, yeah, your parents wanted me to meet with you and go to this, program. We're going to help you out, get you through school and, help you, develop some ways to cope with life and all this. Such a nice guy. And I just basically gave him the middle finger. Like, you got to be kidding me. The denial of not like, you don't think anything is wrong. Like, it's so delusional, Yeah. Like, I think I'm just living the regular teenage experience, maybe on the edge a little bit, but like I was way in the ditch. So I refused to go there. So my parents hired a private security company, transport company, and brought me to this treatment center. It was called Peninsula Village in Knoxville, Tennessee. They bring you to this basement. It's a lockdown unit, chicken wire on the windows. Like, you can't leave. Long story short, you can't leave. And I was there for a year.
That's insane, man. Like going back, like, as you say, you're what, 16, 17 at this point. You must feel like the whole world's against you, because you're like, this is even before you've started drinking or using. You're just kind of trying to deal with whatever's going on in your head. Yeah, you're doing some bits and bobs and messing about, and the law has been involved. But like, you're going to psych wards and you're being made to go for like a year, and you're getting a security detail to take you there. Like, you must be thinking, why is this happening? Like, why is the world against me? I see other kids my age and they're like, I don't know, going to basketball games, they're doing this, they're going to parties, blah, blah, blah. They're getting ready for going to, university. And then this is happening to you. Like, what was going through your mind, man?
Yeah. Man. I mean, I guess so, probably so much, but so little. Like, I don't know that I could really, take it all in, sort of the situation I was in. I mean, I did like run away from the security people at a rest stop, off the highway. I ran away and they called in the sheriff, and then they captured me, I guess you could say, a couple hours later or whatever. I ran through a beehive and through a barbed wire fence. It was just reckless.
Jesus.
But I think it's a great example of that's the only way I know how to deal with stuff, man. Was just to run from it, whether it be in my mind or whether it be through escaping through this other reckless stuff, or whether it be escaping through relationships. I just didn't know how to deal with things or take accountability. Like, it was everybody else's fault for where I was. I just couldn't see it, man. As wild as it is, it's like, dude, I look back, I share this story. I'm like, come on, man. Like, what do you mean you couldn't see it? I just couldn't at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're young, man. And that's the thing. And, like, you've got so much going on, and it just feels like, everyone else is to blame because, and I'm not even saying you're to blame, but everyone else is to blame because they're hammering this home and they're putting you in this place. So you end up going to this place for a year, was it?
Yeah, this was for a year. Yeah.
Yeah. And how was that?
I mean, at first it was rough. I mean, there's a lot of rules. There's a lot of structure. You're timed on how long you have to take a shower. Everything is watched. You're in this basement of a kitchen is where you stay. They call it STU, Special Treatment Unit. You sit on a bed all day. You don't talk. You wake up. You go to sleep. You make your bed in the morning. You sit on the bed. There's no distractions. There's no reading. There's a little bit of schoolwork. There's a couple of groups. The vision back then was break you down and then build you back up. That was the vision. So that part went on for about 3 months, and then you graduated into a cabin program. So then I went into a cabin program, and we lived in a cabin in the woods, and we didn't have any running water, power, or anything like that. And then we would go to school 3 days a week, and we do vocational work 2 days a week. And it wasn't all terrible. It wasn't all terrible. I mean, I learned a lot. You're kind of, you have to, you learn accountability.
You learn it living off the land, almost like a kind of, hunting and learning to bushcraft, none of that stuff. No,
we had a cafeteria.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we had a cafeteria.
No running water, but a cafeteria. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you'd walk across campus, like it was a big campus. So you'd walk, 2 miles, 2 kilometers, and they had a cafeteria you'd eat and stuff at. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, man, that sounds just absolutely brutal. And by the time that came to an end, like, how were you feeling? Were you like almost, I don't know, I don't want to go back to a place like this. I'm going to change my ways. I'm going to be, better behaved.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was feeling good. I had got accepted into college. I had graduated high school. Things with my parents were a lot better. Yeah, I was on top of the moon, man. And they have different level systems there. And, you know, I had reached the highest level you could reach there. You know, that's the thing with me, man. In structure and environments like that, I excel, dude. I do so well. It's always when the bumpers come off, you know, back into the real world is like where
when you've got
I
freedom.
Struggle. So
yeah,
with the freedom
to do stuff, it's like, well, I'm going to do everything and anything I can, to hell with it being illegal or not, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I did really well there, man. I feel like I came a long way, and I think everybody was happy with how, you know, with how things played out. I got home after that. It was a little bit different because I mean, I'd been home for a few visits. It's like a, you know, an integration process. So you go home for a weekend here or there to, you know, see what that is all about. But then I got home, I got my own apartment, you know, I got a car, I got a job, like life was good, right? I mean, it worked, right? Program worked. And,
yeah, you're living the dream, man.
Yeah. And then, I remember it vividly, man. I mean, I had some buddies over, we were playing a card game, and, I mean, I was drinking a little bit at this time too, but nothing, you know, it wasn't like it wasn't that hand or anything. It wasn't anything bonkers yet. But I got introduced to pain medication, opiates, pain pills. Guy at the poker tables taking a medication, and I'm like, hey, what's that all about? And I was so naive. I didn't know about pain medication or opiates or blah, blah, blah. I didn't know about any of that stuff. And even when I went to the rehab, you know, call it treatment, there were some people there who had, say, drug problems, but we never talked about drugs. It wasn't like, you're here because of the drugs. It's basically like, you're here because you don't know how to live life. Like, so I never had like that drug education or information and stuff. And so I didn't know. So I got that pill from that guy. And I mean, I was just like, wow, you know, everything just quieted right down. And that's what kind of really started things off, man, for the, you know, the substances, the drugs. I got into doing cocaine too. And I just got obsessive and compulsive with everything, the drinking. And you know, a couple months into it, I mean, it was just, I got a shoebox. I knew this person, and her mom had a bunch of surgeries. And I'm like, you know, manipulating the crap out of her for this, which, you know, is terrible. And I stayed high on these things for like 30 days, not knowing what would happen when they ran out. Well, I figured that out too.
And what are we talking? Like, I don't know, OxyContin, stuff like that, or?
These were more like Percocet, oxycodone, like lower end stuff. But I was willing to really try whatever too.
And I suppose if it's put in front of you, and that's the thing with me, you know, I did obviously, you know, weed, speed, cocaine, acid, ecstasy. And I'm just thankful, because I know guys over here that, you know, they got into opiates and, you know, they ended up on heroin. It was never put in front of me. I always said in the back of my mind, like, I'm never going to do that. And I always said that about ecstasy. And then I ended up taking ecstasy. Said that about cocaine, ended up taking cocaine. Had someone put heroin or, you know, opiates in front of me back in those days, I don't know, man. You know, if it was put in front of me and someone said, oh, you'll never get a better high than this again, I'd have probably taken it, man, you know. And it's that easy, isn't it? You know, because you didn't set out that evening playing poker to end up taking an opiate from a guy across the table, did you? And it's like the addiction of that just rises straight up. But were you still drinking all this time as well? So did your drinking ramp up as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was always drinking. Another part of the story too is after I left this program too, I had a big aftercare plan, right, of doing all this stuff, and I started to know better. I don't need to do that anymore. I want to hang out with the boys. I want to hang out with my girlfriend. I go, I'm so busy, right? Like, this is what we tell ourselves, right? A lot of people getting sober, right? When it comes to getting sober, they're all of a sudden so damn busy, you know? It's like, well, you're drinking 3-4 hours a night, but now that it's sobriety, like, you're so busy, you can't find an hour to look after yourself, right? I was that guy.
Yeah.
So my psychiatrist, I was seeing the psychiatrist. I remember this guy, he sat in this lazy boy chair. I mean, he must have got it from the side of the road. The thing was so banged up. But he was a guy in recovery, and I went to see him. This is kind of what started the dominoes to fall. He put me on blast of you're just fucking up, man, in every direction. And I felt like, how we get that ego where we feel like, hey man, how dare you tell me I'm in school and I got a girlfriend and I got my first car and I got my first job and I got my first apartment, like that stuff. I thought that stuff mattered. Mm-hmm. Like that was, that showed how well I was doing as a person, but he saw right through this and he just lit me up. And I said, all right, that's the last time I'm ever going to go and, see you. And that was sort of the domino, my mom calls me and she said, hey, blah, blah, blah. What happened? And, it was like that old version of me crept back in so quickly. I mean, 12 months, dude, of conditioning and therapy and accountability and everything. Like when you're in these programs, like you live that shit 24/7. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of wild looking back how quickly that can be undone when I start to get in my own way again. And just believe I have it all figured out. So yeah, I mean, the opiate thing, took off. I was doing the cocaine. We were partying every day. I had the girlfriend and I broke up. I had this other guy move in and he was well connected to the colleges and universities. And we used to buy a keg of beer a week, and he had a truck, and we put the keg of beer in the truck, and we'd go to the different parties. I mean, we thought we were just the coolest thing in town, and I don't know. I don't think we were, but we thought we were, and we drank, man. And I would get off work, and I would get 2 beers for the shower, and this is when alcohol really started to ramp up. I realized I just was so uncomfortable to really go do anything without it.
Yeah, like 2 beers for the shower. It's like, like, I mean, I remember I would get a beer for going on the train and then a beer to I don't know, like walk home from work. And then I'd have beer in the house, and it was like, then it was just wine and it was this and it was that. But it was like, becomes all consuming, and it's just madness. Are you working at this point? Because the guy's told you, like, he's just shot you down, which is, I don't know, in my mind, the wrong thing to do. He should have said, like, listen, Brad, where you're at now, you've got the basics of life. You've got a job, you've got an apartment, you've done 12 months, you've got your car. These are the basics. This is not, you're seeing it as a level of, I've made it, man. But it's not. It's like, the bare bones of life. You've got what a lot of people don't have, but you're still at the kind of, the base level. So he's just told you, nah, he's seen through you, but he's shot you down. So you're just like, nah, to hell with you, man. I'm out. Like that's just set you off on a roller coaster. So yeah, were you working at this point? What job were you doing? I mean, I was working. I did a lot of kitchen work, man. Flipping burgers. And in that too, I mean, I met a lot of people that were older than me, right? And I mean, they were like senior veteran partiers, right? They knew the lifestyle. Kitchens are a crazy place, man. Like, I've worked in bars, and the kitchens are just, they're a whole breed into themselves, man. That's like, like you come in struggling and they're like, just take one of these or do this and do that. We'll get through tonight's shift, then we'll go out partying again. You're like, okay, let's get it. Let's bring it on.
Yeah. So I was doing that. I mean, I was working. That was good. I mean, it was good. I met a lot of people. I mean, we partied every night. That's all we did. That's all we did. But most of them were good people, man. Like, they were really good people. I would say they kept it between the lines for the most part. A lot of them were in school. I was doing the school thing, for a bit, but like you mentioned earlier too, with the heroin, that's where all of us went, man. We started with the pills, and then the pills dried up or they became too expensive, sort of in the crackdown. Time there. I got arrested again too when I was like 18 or 19. And I got convicted of my first felony too. I had to submit like blood sample and DNA to the state and everything. And I was put on probation again. But interestingly enough, Jimmy, this probation at 18, no drug tests. Oh. I mean, I lied though, man. I lied about everything, not everything, but a lot of things. And the lawyer was like, what's the reason for this, for taking stuff? And I said, credit card debt. and they bought it, man. So if someone needs money for credit card debt,
you manipulated them. You sent their feelers off in the wrong way, and it's like, yeah, okay, this guy doesn't need to be drug tested. So you're like on probation, but just cracking on, carry on as regardless. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Which I mean, still had some risks involved and stuff. Like I was really, I was just such a, I don't know if dark is the right word, but it was just so tough. Yeah, it was such a tough time. I mean, to cut a long story short, just for timing. But, I just ended up losing everything, man. I got evicted from the apartment. We got too many party, notifications. My parents had bought me a car, like a new to me. It was a used car, but they thought I was doing well. So they bought me this car. That second time I got arrested, I lost the car. So like, I don't know, they spent like $10,000-$15,000. That was gone. And the whole story there was because I parked it around the street. We go into, my buddy goes in, check this car. We go on this like foot chase. The car's like 3 a.m. And we're in this small little town, and I see the cops coming. And like this town only has 2 cops. Yeah. And I see them coming, and I'm like, oh shit, we got to run. So my buddy and I, we run, but my car was there. And then I called this girl I was dating at the time from this pool phone. I don't know if we had cell phones back then, but every pool in the neighborhoods, they had a phone in case you had an emergency. Yeah. So I called her, and I was like, come and pick me and so up. And we were just leaving this little town. You could see the sign, and the cops pulled us over, came up with some bullshit story, but literally there was nobody else on the road. So the cops towed the car, and they wanted me to like give them a statement to release the car. But I was just got in my own way again, ego. Being young, being dumb, resisted that. My brother bails me out of jail. The impound lot where the car was, they charge a daily price. Oh, so when I finally came around to wondering, hey, I wonder if I should get my car, it was $2,000. And the shame was too heavy. I couldn't go to my parents with that. Like, so
you've spent $15K on my car, and now I need another $2K to get it out of there. And I'm guessing they weren't aware of your brother bailing you out in the jail thing that night. No. So you didn't. Yeah, no. You don't want to go and speak to them and say, "Listen, guys, I've fucked up again." Yeah, that's yeah.
So just that was gone, man, and that was a tough conversation to have later down the road, because of course they were like, "Hey, your car is still in the shop," 6 months later. Yeah. But I mean, that was kind of like, I mean, we don't have time for all the stories, but that was kind of it, man. And then at the time I was living at my parents' place too. And when they arrested me that night, they left a charge off the thing, or they discovered more charges. Right. So I was at my parents' place. Yeah. I got home at maybe 4 or 5 in the morning. My stepdad was getting I have a younger brother too at this point. Like my mom, my stepdad had a son, and, cops show up at the house, my parents' place, suburbs. Like, this is not the life my parents live. And I get arrested right there in the entryway of the house, and back to jail and the whole thing again. It's like, man, another opportunity to, exit the elevator. Yeah. But I didn't, man. I went to live with like my girlfriend's parent, this girl I was dating at the time, at her parents' place, like without them knowing. And, dude, I was working at Little Caesars, I think, at this point. Like, I mean, it was just, dude, it was crazy.
Digging into this like pit almost. Yeah. And has heroin come on the scene at this point?
I mean, that was later, probably like 20 years old or so. Yeah, we just so normal, right? I mean, of course, that's not something we're ever going to do, but it just, you just keep going, man, and you never really know what you're going to end up doing.
It's interesting you say that, because I've just finished reading the Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe, and it's all about the OxyContin kind of epidemic, the opioid crisis and all that. And there's a bit in the book where basically the whole country, America, Canada, and all that, was trying to clamp down on these prescription pills. And where did it send people? It sent people onto the street, and it made the cartels south of the border clock in on this, and they were like, right, we're sending up all this other stuff then. So like, as much as of course there was heroin available, but then it became even more available because people weren't taking the prescriptions anymore because they couldn't get hold of them because the government was trying to do the right thing and clamp down on it, which then sends people to do, you know, even worse things. And I don't know whether the heroin's worse than the prescriptions or vice versa, but it did lead people down some dark, nasty, darker places, you know, because you're not just getting it from, I don't know, the chemist or, you know, a pill mill. You're getting it from dealers on the back of corner and, you know, on the corner of the street and all that kind of stuff. So that sounds like, yeah, I mean, you tell me, did you feel like it was a step lower than where you already were? Like, as in this is even seedier and darker, or?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It gets expensive. I was actually at this point too, like I was selling cars too. I was working at a Michael Jordan Nissan.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I was selling many cars, but I was showing up to get a paycheck. Yeah, man. I mean, I just lost or gave away one or the other, you know, everything faded away. Right. In my life. And the school stuff didn't pan out. I got put on academic probation. It was kind of like one conversation after another of like, dude, you need to, you know, straighten up or do something different. And yeah, man, I mean, I got robbed with a handgun and, you know, I thought that would kind of be it, dude. That was pretty wild, man. I wasn't expecting that. And, you know, just the places we would go to, you know, to get stuff, right? It was, but it was strange, dude.
It's needs must, isn't it? You know, it's your medicine and you need it to keep going. So where did it all kind of go wrong and then go right, Brad?
Yeah, I feel like it's been going wrong since I was like 6, but where did it go right is a good question. So I finally got in trouble, you know. I think, you know, you hear a lot about
finally got in trouble. You'd not been getting in trouble up until this point, Brad. I finally got in trouble. I finally did the most dastardly thing. Yeah. Sorry, man. Carry on.
I guess, you know, I finally realized I was in trouble, maybe. I think I had gotten in a lot of trouble and you know, for whatever reason was unable to realize sort of the impact of this on life and on me. And, you know, once you're a felon too in the US, like trying to get a job at Burger King is even difficult.
Yeah.
So I knew that was kind of up against me, but yeah, so I had moved up I went to detox, man. I reached out to my grandparents and I was on methadone at this time too, and dabbling here or there, drinking every day. But this was sort of my dilemma, man, is I was on the methadone, which is like you know, like you go to a clinic every day, and I had no car and I was living on my brother's floor in his apartment at this time. I had absolutely no belongings. I owned nothing, a little suitcase in the corner of his roommate's bedroom. And I would go get this methadone and I'd walk to my job at Little Caesars. It's maybe take me 2 hours. Sometimes I'd get a ride. I was just living just rough, you know, I was making $200 a week or something, pay my brother a little bit of money, but he was getting fed up with it too, right? I'm using his car every morning to go I had to drive 30 minutes there and back, and pay $12 a day. And I didn't even have the $12. I'd have to go sometimes after Little Caesars over to my parents' place. I'd walk over there and they'd pay me $10 an hour cash to do work in their backyard. They would never give me anything, but if you want to work, it's $10 and, you know, dig holes, whatever.
But they knew this was for your script to get your methadone, basically. Yeah. But they weren't just going to hand it out. Yeah.
Yeah. To try and, you know, help me out and all that stuff. So yeah, I reached out to my grandparents. I'm like, I got to get some help. And they're like, all right, whatever. They found this detox in South Florida. Went down there, got sober off everything, but leaned into drinking after that. Moved back up to Canada for like a year, drank every single day. I did all right. Like, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really have much going. I didn't have any friends. I was working a painting job. It was all right, dude. I was getting by. I was drinking in the morning. You know, that all that sort of crap started. You know, I part of me thought it was, I don't know, cool. I don't know. It's so weird. It was like, it wasn't cool, but it was just an escape, man. I think I'd felt so low my whole life. I'm like, dude, I thought I was going to have a life. And here I am. I'm living at my grandparents' place. But I don't have a life. So then I wanted to go back and visit my parents. And this girl, you know, I connected with this girl again. Like, Great person, dude. What she saw in me, I have no idea. But when I get off the airplane, I got arrested. There's a bunch of cops there. I get arrested. I get charged with, it was like 5 or 6 or 3. I can't remember exactly, but counts of drug trafficking. And long story short on that is I had a buddy of mine. I remember it like it was yesterday. He calls me up and he's like, yeah, I got a guy. He worked at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. You guys have those Five Guys?
Yeah, we got them. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
not on the island, but in the UK. We don't have them on the Isle of Man, but we've got them in the UK. Yeah. Good burgers, man. Good burgers.
Good burger, yeah. So he claimed he had this guy that worked with him that wanted to like really buy some stuff, drugs or whatever. So me trying to fit in, this guy was older than me. He was a madman, trying to fit in, trying to be cool. That's not even what I did. I was like, all right, I'll make it happen. So that was like 2 or 3 years prior that I actually did the deals. And it was to his buddy. His buddy was a cop. So this all caught back up with me, man. So I went to jail for a year. It was pretty much a year to the day. Yeah. And I got deported afterwards. And I got sent back to Canada because I only held a green card in the US. So then I got deported and given a lifetime ban for the US at that point in time. And then landed and started, my life over, man. So that's like when things, and it wasn't a rock bottom, it wasn't anything to do with the situation. I don't think it was more internally of, there was this one moment that really stood out to me. The girl that was going to pick me up, she, at the airport, you drive around the circle there.
Yeah.
And I saw her as I was on the back of the cop car handcuffed and they were searching me. And I saw the smile on her face of like happy to pick me up, whatever, and hang out and da-da-da. And something just dawned over me, man, of like, it kind of went fast in my brain, my thoughts of like, fuck, man, all the people you've let down, like in your life, dude, because of all of this shit, man, what are you doing? Like what are you doing, man? You can't keep living like this. And that sat with me, man. And I think that was one of the big things that sort of motivated me to like do something different. What that was going to look like, I wasn't really sure, but I didn't connect the dots of like, hey, I got to get sober because I leaned in heavy. I mean, there really wasn't a day that went by, for 5 years that I wasn't really on something, and my whole life before that, I had struggled. I just hadn't found my vehicle to relief yet. And when the alcohol came and the drugs came, I was like, shit, man, like how fast can we go?
Yeah. Here we go, man. It's such an amazing story, Brad. Thank you for sharing, man. And, like, as you say, you've come on kind of leaps and bounds, obviously, man. You've got an amazing podcast, great Instagram, now your Sober Motivation app. So, you are giving back, you are helping other people out there. And I just think that's just so commendable, mate. And it's just an absolute pleasure to have you on. I mean, I've got a couple of quick little fire questions if you've got time for that, mate.
Of course.
So like, obviously you're helping people out all the time, but if someone was listening right now and secretly wondering whether alcohol or drugs is a problem, what would you say directly to them?
It's a problem if you're wondering if it's a problem.
Yeah. Simple. That's it. If they're wondering it's a problem, it's definitely a problem. One habit that keeps you steady on a daily basis?
Just being part of a community.
Yeah.
Just talking with people, communicating with people that are, on the journey, doing podcasts like this, connecting with you, sharing the story. I feel like every time I do it, I learn a little bit something else about myself, that I can take away, which is a lot of fun.
Of course. And you've created an amazing community as well with the Sober Motivation. So yeah, kudos to you, man. A podcast, a film, or a book about recovery or hope?
Yeah, what book I read when I was in jail the last time was Dream Seller by Brandon Novak, which is an interesting book because he wasn't sober when he wrote the book. He kind of wrote the book to make money to, score more drugs. Yeah. And he has crazy stories too about how he was at a book signing and he stole all the books and sold them but I didn't know any of that at the time, but reading that book, I think it really opened up my eyes. I wasn't, that far on the edge with things, or, at that level, but it just really, painted a picture of, where things could potentially go. We never think, none of us ever think we're going to end up there.
Yeah.
But, a lot of times we do find ourselves there if we don't stop.
No. I mean, it's on my list, so I'll put that in the show notes as well. He's such a good guy. Have you had him on your podcast yet?
No, I haven't. No.
I mean, I've tried to. He's got a number on his website that says like call here. It's obviously for people that are struggling, and I've tried to ring it and I've left messages, but maybe one day we'll get Brandon on because he's a cracking guy, great guy. Lastly, Brad, one word that describes your life now.
Acceptance.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, man.
Yeah, just things as they are, man. I think that people got their own ways, their own stories, their own things that work, and there's a weird stuff going on in the world. And, I think that when I go against that is when I get myself in trouble. When I try to control everything, it's tough for me, man. So just accept things as they are, meet people where they're at. It's all good.
Yeah. Acceptance and patience, I guess, as well. I've learned a lot of that in recovery. When's your book coming out, Brad? Because we were talking off air, and I'm starting to write mine. Your story, it reads like a book, like a film, man. Like just those things where you're like, you're back at your parents, and the cops come round in the morning, and your little brother's there, and you're just like, oh, here we go again, and your parents must be like, what is going on? Yeah, man, we need to hear your full story in a book and make it into a film, man. So yeah.
Making it to a film, yeah. I don't know, man. I thought about it. I actually did start writing a book. I had a buddy of mine who wanted to be a ghostwriter like 8 years ago. It's kind of where all this stuff started. Yeah. And then we wrote, I don't know, 5 chapters or something. He wrote it. I would share the story with him. He would kind of take the notes home and he would write it out. But the problem is all the people in the mix. All of the people in the mix and sharing kind of those stories and how that played out. I just don't know if I'd be able to get the full story out there with, I'm very mindful of other people too that were part of it. I don't think anybody asked to be part of the chaos and the wreckage of what was my life. Because there was I share all of that and I'm thinking like, man, that was I just like this piece of shit walking around. I was a good person, I really was a good person that loved people that I think I just took the long way home, like I got lost along the way. But I had so many good people and so much opportunity. But I think that that's what fueled the shame a bit because I was like, dude, how can you have not figured this out? My grandfather, before he passed away, called me the $1 million man. Just with the amount of money, that was spent for me to try to figure it out.
I can
so that was, it's tough. Yeah. It's really tough, so, maybe a motion picture in a book someday. We'll see, Jimmy.
Just change everyone's names, man, and change all the settings. I know and that is tough because at the end of the day, it's our story, but it involves other people. And that's the thing. It's not just us walking blindly through, without interacting with anyone else. And they've obviously they're living their lives as well. So it is a difficult one. And I understand that as well, man. It's a tough one, but sometimes the stories need to come out and that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, Brad, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story, mate. I know it's going to help loads of people. So much appreciated, man. And we appreciate your sobriety.
Yeah, you too, Jimmy. Thanks for having me, man. It's always great to connect, dude. Love you, man.
Take care, man. Cheers, buddy. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you for opening season 4 and just for being so, brutally honest, like what Brad says, if you think you've got a problem, then you've got a problem. And I just think that's the simplest, most powerful answer that you can have in that question, because if you're thinking there's a problem, then there's a problem. I think with Brad, he didn't realize there was a problem from, quite early on. He didn't think that, he knew getting in trouble with the law was wrong, but he didn't really see it as a problem in his life until it was, and I think with Brad, this is the thing. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about stopping the running. You know, it's not about, you know, it's about facing your problems head on rather than running away from them. You know, like Brad ran, running away from security, just running away from his problems. And I think Brad's story proves to us all that, you know, you can come back from chaos. You know, he was such a young man and his life was just an absolute train wreck. But Brad came back from it, you know, through help of his family, his loved ones, you know, but they were at their end of the tether, you know, as his grandfather called him the millionaire man, because he was just spending, you know, good money that the family were. They wanted to help him. They wanted to get him out of that. And that's essentially what happened, you know, because like he said, he's a good man. He didn't want to be causing pain and anguish to his family and loved ones. But I think that's by the by. When you're involved in drugs and alcohol, you press that fuck it button and you just keep going full steam ahead. And Brad certainly did go full steam ahead with it all. So I think you don't need to wait for rock bottom. You know, he says in the episode, he doesn't think that he actually had a rock bottom. You don't need to wait for jail or lose everything. You can stop it now. And that's the thing. That's what I'm saying as well. Choose tomorrow by staying sober today. And I think that is a mantra that needs to be ringing out across the way. Choose tomorrow, stay sober today. Choose your future. You know, Brad is now got an amazing family, 3 kids, and he's looking to the future, which is before he was just saying, I can't see past Friday. And I think that is the amazing lesson that we take from this episode. Thank you so much, Brad, for coming on. Been an absolute pleasure chatting with you again. And I think, you know, as always, subscribe, share with someone who needs it. If you're listening to this and you think that someone needs to hear this episode, hear Brad's story, then please share it with them, you know. Thank you for everyone for putting up with my little short break and staying faithful to the podcast. So yeah, please leave comments, let us know what you think. And yeah, we've got loads more amazing episodes lined up. I've been recording mad over the last couple of weeks, so yeah, we're just going to keep going, guys, and stay safe, stay supportive, stay sober. Peace. Love you all. Bye bye.